championship.
Yeah, and then keeping in mind that first round is played on campus sites. I think it's going to be really interesting to see which Big Ten schools, which Northern Climb schools might be hosting a game against a team from the South at an outdoor stadium in the North in that opening round of games, which is one of the things. Like Wisconsin tore up its turf after last season to put down new turf with heated coils underneath. And a lot of Northern Climb stadiums have been required to make their stadiums winterized in that regard, so they're not playing on concrete.
I was going to say, was that required by college football?
I don't know if they required it, but Wisconsin wanted to do it to make sure that if they did host, that they were prepared for that, so they don't have, remember TCF Bank Stadium when Brett Favre's career ended with the Vikings. Oof. They were playing there rough because they were in between the Metrodome and U.S. Bank, and that field was not heated. And
Favre nearly died.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I still remember the chalk outline of Favre as he lay there.
Exactly.
Forever.
Yeah.
I think and this is what first of all, let's get on record around the horn here. I love the 12-team playoff. Butchie, do you like it, love it, or hate it?
I love it.
Yeah, okay.
This was the
right answer. That's the right answer.
Do you like it, love it?
Yeah.
Okay, love it.
Love it.
Okay, good.
That's perfect.
So we all
Fantastic.
love it. Okay.
Yep.
I think one of the reasons I love it is if Wisconsin can just make the playoff, it's a soft championship of sorts. It's hang a banner worthy accomplishment, even if they don't win it all.
And in recent,
it's not hang a banner though.
Well,
no.
Okay. Well,
what do they make the title game?
You
okay,
do.
There's your runner-up banner, but it's not hang a banner if you just make it.
Yes, you do.
No.
But here's
what do you want? Orange slices for everybody?
No, this isn't.
Listen, we're not the
Colts.
About
orange slices.
We're not the Colts, hanging a AFC finalist participant banner. This is college football. You'd be one of the 12 teams in the playoff. It would say College Football Playoff 2024.
Yep.
And
of course,
you want that up. You want that next to Big Ten championships and Rose Bowls?
Of course you do. Yes.
It's better. It'd be better than a Rose Bowl win. Ooh, there's a hot take
you want to put up the Rose Bowl deal. The Badgers made the Rose Bowl by default a couple of times. Do you want those up, or at least one time?
Yeah, because it meant something. Right now,
it didn't mean anything.
You're going to put
playoff. Butchie, the only reason they made it is that Ohio State was ineligible,
didn't mean anything.
And Penn State was ineligible.
He didn't say it didn't mean anything.
Two of them.
He did. His exact words were saying it didn't mean anything.
He did say that. You need to take that back, Mike.
I'd have to look. I'd have to look at what their record was. One of the years they made the Rose
Bowl.
Tell
Barry Alvarez that first group that made the Rose Bowl didn't mean anything.
Tell to his face.
Don't stop it. Don't stop me.
Wait.
Tell me it didn't matter. Tell Barry it didn't matter.
Did I say that was the year it didn't matter?
You just told me it didn't matter.
Said one of the years.
There was one of the years it didn't matter.
Texters, help us out. 414-799-1973.
Come on, Butchie.
Look, I'm not supposed to be the one getting you all hot and riled right now.
You're
hot and bothered.
Dumb stuff. When you're dumb about something.
I'm not dumb. No.
You're not dumb, but that was a dumb statement.
No, it was not. That meant something. Tell Barry that it didn't mean anything.
I'm not telling, but what did Barry
have go ahead. If you don't think it's that important, tell Barry the Rose Bowls didn't matter.
I did not have on my fight card.
Mike,
but you was arguing with Heller
Mike, those are a big deal, Mike.
I will mess
Mike, those Rose Bowls matter, Mike.
Next time I see him, I'm going to punch you.
That's your Barry impression?
I don't have a good one. I don't have a good
falsetto when he gets a little hot.
I don't have a good one. I'm working on it, though.
You're
working on a good Barry.
Sure you are. Okay.
God, I love Barry.
I think I think the first soft championship is just getting into the 12-team playoff, which would be amazing.
Hang a banner.
The second level is hosting a game on that new $1 million renovated heated field, which will still be cold and hard, but it'll be less cold and hard.
To me, the really interesting thing is, in order to get to the playoff, how high would you have to finish in the Big Ten? You're talking about 18 teams. Can you finish fourth in the Big Ten and make the playoff?
You would have to play in the championship game of the Big Ten and lose.
Well, I don't think so.
No,
because I think the Big Ten is routinely going to get 3 teams in. They're routinely going to get 2, and there are going to be years where they get 3. It's going to be very difficult. I'm not saying that Wisconsin can't do it, but it's going to be very difficult to crack the top 2 of the Big Ten with an unbalanced, no division schedule. You're going to play 9 Big Ten games, and you're going to have to crack the top 2 to play in the Big Ten championship game. And you're talking about trying to compete with Oregon and USC and Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State. Those 5 teams' names are always going to be said before yours. So you're going to have to leapfrog 3 of those in order to play in a Big Ten championship game because it's not divisioned.
Well, I guess my thinking is the way the powers that be operate is if the Badgers are not playing for the Big Ten title and losing it, they won't be picked as an at-large because there's a perception of there's got to be someone sexier.
Sure, it just probably depends on how that season played out. You know, if you had beaten the Michigan that year, you've beaten Michigan and Washington that year, Michigan, Washington, Iowa, and Nebraska that year.
You need a signature win is what you're saying?
But you had 2 other losses that kept you
even
out
if
of
you look at this year,
game.
though, Mike, if you beat Alabama and you beat USC at USC, but let's say you lose to Oregon, Penn State, you're still like in that conversation because you've got big names available.
If this Wisconsin team went 10-2 and didn't play in the conference championship game, and those 2 of those wins were against Bama and USC,
they're in.
You got a shot to be in that playoff without question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the team as you've been watching practice, and now we know that the obvious has been named. Tyler Van Dyke, your starting quarterback. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think the defense has to make a quantum leap from last year to this. Like, they put no pressure on a quarterback last year. They didn't beat anybody up in that way. So the defense, and they have some players that we've seen come in the portal and some true freshmen, mainly from the portal, who might step up and be those guys. But they'd have to do that. And then Tyler Van Dyke is going to have to play at his early Miami level in order for Wisconsin to have a legitimate shot to be a 9-win team. Now, I think they could, honestly, Czabe, they could be an 8-4 team and be really good and have people kind of, I don't know if everybody'd be fired up about 8-4, but it depends on where the 8-4 happened. But you could be 8-4 with this team and have a hell of a season. You wouldn't be a playoff team, obviously, but you'd have a hell of a season. And people,
then what do you think they end up?
I think that would be a top end number. I don't know. I would say 8 is the ceiling, and I think it's a 2-win variance. I think 7 is a floor and 8's the ceiling.
Okay,
I agree.
Interesting. It's a tight window right there.
Yeah.
I believe they've been picked on average 7th, according to the experts, to finish in the Big Ten. 7th,
I think that's
8th,
that's a fair number. The schedule is pretty daunting. Now, Alabama notwithstanding, because obviously it's not a conference game. You play at USC. You do get Penn State and Oregon at home, but you play at Iowa and at Nebraska. And people scoff at Iowa and Nebraska.
No, those are tough outs.
Iowa is never sexy, but they're always good.
Pain in the ass, Iowa is.
Yeah. And then there's a coach who did a lot of winning at Baylor, Matt Rule, who's now at Nebraska. And all they want to do in Nebraska, is have a winning college football team. And they spent all the money. They spent all the monies on Raiola, the freshman quarterback. All of the monies. Right. Including that. They probably had a PJ for him. They just didn't do a commercial for it.
Dominic Raiola? Yeah.
Dylan.
Dylan Raiola.
I believe it's.
Who was Dominic Raiola?
He was center in the NFL for the Lions.
Okay,
but it's that family.
Yeah, it's his kid.
Got it. That's his kid. Okay. Yeah. All right. And he's really, really good.
Really good. Everybody wanted him.
And that stretch, by the way, is Penn State at Iowa, Oregon at Nebraska. Like, that's a 4-game stretch with 2 marquee home games in there with the 2 roads in between. Like, that's and they're college kids. To go from playing Penn State homecoming, then to go play at Iowa, like, that's a tough turnaround. Then they've got their bye week. They come back. They've got Oregon at home. And then they go on the road at Nebraska, another tough turnaround. Like, that's not a good setup if you're just looking at it as far as college kids and how they bounce back.
Yep, and they sort of get a scheduled break. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Ohio State this year. But Penn State is always filled with athletes, and Oregon might be the best team in the Big Ten.
All right. I know the offense is a little different than what Wisconsin traditionally has run. I won't call it the air raid because I know that gets very sensitive. But will we get back to seeing the Wisconsin running back that they have been over the years?
Yeah, and I think that they would have run it more last year if Chez Malusi doesn't go down, and because Braylon there was too much on his plate a year ago. But I think that they've got a stable of very good running backs. It depends on that offensive line. Again, wasn't good enough last year. I think
is it the Chez Malusi show, or is it going to be split?
Well, Chez is still the man, but it will be split. They've got some talent in the program. Darian Dupree is a true freshman from the Chicagoland area that I think might be next as a star running back at Wisconsin.
Okay. All right, let's flip to the Brewers. What a season.
So good. Yeah.
What a season. What was the best part of this incredible 10 days in August at AmFam where they went 7-3, packed houses.
Yeah.
Swept a really good Guardians team that had the best percentage record in baseball. They dropped anchor on what looked like a disaster series against the Dodgers with the most scintillating 1-2-3 from the Airbender against the heart of that murderer's row lineup in the middle of that series. I mean, what a series. What was the favorite thing for you?
They're down 3-0 in the opening inning against the Dodgers in game 3 of that series and come back and win. If they lose that game, there's a fair shot they get swept in the series. And 2 days later, they're telling us the Yelich story, which I think they knew earlier than they told us.
Oh, really?
Well, I
you think they sat on that?
No, not for days.
When are we going to break this to the fans? Because they're not going to be happy.
Right. They lost back-to-back at Washington on August 3rd and 4th, and they were 13 games over 500. They're 10-3 since against Atlanta, 7 games over 500. Cincinnati, not great. The Dodgers, 20 games over 500, and Cleveland, 20 games over 500. Yeah. That 4-series stretch, they go 10-3, and they're now 20 games over 500. By the way, they are a half game out of the 2 seed and 1 game out of having the best record in the National League, and only one win ahead of them for the best record in Major League Baseball.
And nobody's talking about them. And they do not have a star that is recognizable outside of our immediate zip code.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's all good. Everything there is good. They do not have an ace, but I'll tell you what, the last 2 days, their 1 and 2 pitchers, Freddie and Colin Ray, pitched like aces. Haven't done it often, but they did it the last 2 days.
All right. Is there any lingering questions for you about the Packers and the preseason? Just a lingering question.
Can it be done?
Did you have fun watching that game last night?
Can it be done? Gosh.
So who's going to play in the final game against the Ravens?
Well, Matt LaFleur was not happy last night. I wouldn't mind seeing the starters play on Saturday for the first quarter.
Interesting.
Let's play a little bit. They were rotten last night.
They were real quick, though. A.J. Dillon was in the rumor mill a lot of possibly having a roster and not making the roster, etc. He didn't play yesterday. Does that tell you he's on this team no matter what right now?
Well, they said it might have been a health issue. He didn't handle the elevation,
altitude and stuff. Yeah.
No, I don't think it tells you for sure. But Emmanuel Wilson didn't win
that
spot last night either.
A lot of people think though he's going to make the team.
Yeah, I think he probably will. Yeah.
All right. And our kickers are
terrible.
You said that, not me. Say that to their leg. You go say that right to their leg.
I'll say that to Bear in the Rose Bowl too. It doesn't matter. And the leg. Hey, you're terrible. You're terrible.
They're not good, Danny. You stink. We're not going to count on you to kick a game-winning field goal. We're going to try to outscore teams with touchdowns. All right, Mr. Heller, any promotional items for you today, noon to 3, the Mike Heller Show?
We go to the Mats on Monday. Matt LePay and Matt Schneidman Mondays on the Mike Heller Show.
I love it. To the Mats we go. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
See you, boys.
Coming up, Wayne Larrivee. He called that dog of a game last night right here on your home of the Packers. We'll get his take on the 27-2 thrashing in Denver. Our conversation with Wayne Larrivee is sponsored by Steam Fitters Local 601. Learn more by visiting steam601.org and National Fire Sprinklers Association. Visit them at nfsa.org. Wayno, good morning, my friend. How did the altitude treat you in Denver?
Treated me okay. I didn't have any problems, but it was hot and dry out there. I'll tell you, 95 degrees every day. Really dry. Humidity was around in the teens most of the week, and it was interesting.
Nice. Well, you go up there to ski, obviously, and hike in the summer. So not Denver per se, but that part of the country. So that suits your temperament quite well. Playing a football game, though, at altitude is a bit different. What was it with A.J. Dillon and the altitude?
We at practice, early on at practice, he struggled and had to come out of that practice on Friday afternoon. And so they essentially shut him down for the rest of the weekend. He just had a real problem with that altitude, and some players do and some don't. And the coaches were telling us yesterday morning that they felt in the practice on Friday, they started out well against the Broncos, but then kind of hit a wall. And they were thinking, well, it could be a combination of the heat and the altitude that got to them a little bit. But they were in town for 3 days, so that wasn't quite something you could say about last night.
Yeah. You know what I blame, Butchie? I blame the Topgolf and Shanahan Steakhouse.
I would agree.
Because I saw Schneidman reported team's going to Shanahan Steakhouse and Topgolf, and I felt like going, thank you, good to know. But then I figured it'd come off as smart-assy, which I'm not trying to be. I just, people got to report on things, right? Yes, Wayne.
Well, the best steakhouse, in my opinion, in Denver is the Denver Chop House. It's right down to the ballpark. I go there every time I'm in Denver. Went there twice this week. It was the best food I've had in months.
All right, let's guess Wayne's steak of choice. Butchie, take a swing at it.
Oh, you got maybe a Wagyu slice, sort of Wagyu.
Okay, Wagyu filet.
Yeah,
$90 a 6-ounce filet, expensive, but Wayne's got the money, opulence. He has it. No, I think he is I think he's a tomahawk ribeye guy.
Nope.
Tomahawk ribeye.
Nope.
Survey says
New York strip.
Shut up.
Strip.
Yep.
You went twice and you got 2 New York strips.
No, actually, the first night I went, I just got a hamburger, and that was excellent. It was the best hamburger I've ever had in my life.
You went to a steakhouse and got a hamburger?
Time out. I need a 20-second full.
No, you need a full. You need a full. Extend that to a full.
Let's go full.
Extend it. Extend it.
Yeah. Zabe's got to collect himself. Full timeout.
Media timeout.
I'm like a coach, Wayne, where now I'm pacing out on the court. I'm so mad. I'm like, okay, all right. Now I'm coming back to the huddle. I'm like, all right, Wayne, you ordered a hamburger?
The Denver Chop House is a lot of good food, but they also make their own beer, and that was good too. So,
I don't care. Good. You ordered a burger at a steakhouse. What's going on?
And it was the best burger I've ever had in my life.
The best burger you've ever had?
Yes.
Well, it might have been a Wagyu burger. Might have taken a Wagyu steak and chopped it up and made it into
maybe.
All right, let's get to the damn game.
Yes.
If you were to put root canal and calling that game last night in an either or, pick your poison. Which would you rather have?
Calling the game.
Root canal, right?
Yeah. No.
It was tough last night. I felt for you guys badly.
Yeah, it was not easy. Preseason games aren't easy to begin with, but that one from a Packers standpoint just didn't go well from the beginning. It's funny that practice, the coaches were not happy with the way their team played in the practice against Denver on Friday, and then last night was a matter of, I kept saying this on the air. I said, this is an opportunity. Opportunity is knocking. And nobody was answering the door, it seemed like. There were a couple of players who actually did play very well. Tyron Hopper, the young third-round linebacker, ton of athletic ability. That kid had his first opportunity really to play extensively. I thought he was terrific. 11 total tackles, 6 solos. Kristen Welch continues to prove that he can play linebacker in addition to special teams. He had the interception. And Brenton Cox pressure the quarterback on a consistent basis and also had a sack and a TFL. That's what they're looking for. I thought those guys kind of stood out defensively, but it was a rough go overall. Now, understand something also about this, okay? And Bo, that when the Broncos and Packers scrimmaged on Friday, Denver ran 90 offensive plays against the Green Bay defense. 70 of them were passes, and most of them were of the short variety. Bo Nix moved the ball around really well. I think he's going to be a terrific quarterback for Denver in that system. But Hafley said to us, he said, listen, we didn't play anything more than 3 vanilla coverages in the practice and in the game. And that's because they don't want people to know what they're really going to do. So, don't put too much into some of these preseason results. But I will say this young Packers team, Denver gave them a bit of a comeuppance, so to speak.
Wait, when you look at this, we talked Friday, and there were a couple of questions. I said I was going to watch the running back group to see what that looked like. Obviously, AJ didn't play, but based on what we saw there, we also talked about what were the kickers going to do. Give me your thoughts on those two positions and where the Packers stand right now with that.
Yeah, they only got 1 field goal attempt off, and that was pushed wide right. The kicking game is interesting, guys, because Denver just started kicking the ball through the end zone. They started kicking into the end zone, saying, we'll give it to you at the 30-yard line, And I think what the NFL is going to evolve this rule. And what's going to happen if teams start doing this on a regular basis, the NFL is going to say, okay, instead of the 30, we'll put the ball out at the 35-yard line. And that'll make a little bit of a difference. The other thing we saw in practice with the kicking game was Denver was doing directional kicking and scud missiles in that direction. So, in other words, the ball hits in the landing zone. The return man has to field it, whether it's in the end zone or in the landing zone. He's got to pick it up, field it, and if he's got to return it. So they force a return. And when you're trying to scoop up a ball that's bounding in front of you, that takes longer to do than just catch it on the fly. So there are a couple of things that we're looking for in that regard. But then when we got to the game last night, people were just kicking it through the end zone. And I think there's going to be that's going to be interesting to see how the league responds to that. As far as the kickers go, I still think the Packers have one of the two will emerge as a kicker for the Packers this year. And I still think it's a close competition that's up for grabs.
That is Wayne straddling the fence right there. Did you hear that, Butchie? He said, I think one of the two will be the kicker. Way to be out in a limb there, Wayne. I love that. You're playing the diplomat here. You're not throwing your weight behind either guy.
Well, I think the other factor is their kicker on the roster right now. That's another factor. And with kickers, you can always – that's always in the back of everyone's mind.
That's a fair point. I didn't think about that. Okay, that actually is taking a stance, a small stance, but a stance.
But it is one, yeah.
That their kicker will be on the roster. On the kickoff thing, there was a pundit I read that said he predicted this, that teams would just start booting it out of the end zone because returning it past the 30 was too easy on this modified kickoff, which would then completely defeat the purpose. But you said the NFL can change the rule mid-season, because I guess that's now how the league operates.
Well, no, we read that when we were at the house, Zabe, together. That came out and was like, how in the world are you changing it halfway through the season?
But I think the optimal strategy, Wayne, on kicking off is to do those scud missiles, to do the squibs, because it has the highest potential for a turnover, which would be huge for the kicking team.
And it's interesting, Zabe, that you said the general impression before the season began was, and I had the same thing, was that this is going to be easy for the return team to get out across the 30-yard line. But the more I watch this, the fewer times I see people get out across the 25. It seems like, here's the thing that's interesting about this, and Rich Bisaccia disagrees with me on this, but I think the coverage unit has an advantage, a one-step advantage, because remember, no one can move in the setup zone until the ball hits the ground or is caught by the return man. Well, who's got vision of that? The coverage unit, and they can get off. So, I mean, hey, you're the blocking unit, you're the return unit. You're waiting for the man across from you to move first. He's got to step on you already. So I think the coverage has been better than we thought it would be. And this is why maybe teams are starting to go to look at alternate type of things to do. I still think that the real strategy won't come out until the regular season begins.
All right. The defensive line is lined up at what yard line again? What line do they stand
coverage
on?
unit?
Yeah, the return team lines up at what yard line?
The 35. They're 35.
The 35.
And
Okay.
2 players can line up 5 yards back at the 30.
Okay.
And then 2 players back deep. Okay.
Okay. What happens if you blast a line drive off the face of one of the return guys at the 35? Is it a live ball?
No, it's a dead ball, and it's treated like a kickoff out of bounds, and it comes out to the 40-yard line.
Okay, so you can't plink one of the guys in the front line with a line drive blast. Okay. Well, I still think kicking those over the head scuds that are weird and bounce and bound, that's the play right there. Make him go chase that and catch a live grenade and run with it. That's what I'd do.
But you've got to, again, and a lot of times that's done directionally, and the risk there is that scud will skip out of bounds, and now you're But anyway, it's going to be very interesting to see.
I say we keep Carlson just because we've got some investment in him. Greg Joseph hasn't blown my socks off. I mean, he was looking there for a while like he was going to win it, and then he had a bad week. Yeah. And I'm just like, you go find a Greg Joseph off the pile anytime you want. Hand in the fire for one more year.
I was just gonna say we have investment in him. That's the most important thing we do, because if Carlson comes out to be
my
the hero,
ass is in the jackpot.
It's you.
No.
Here's my thing. Here's the thing I've thought about all the way with this kicking competition. Just my thought. Last year, Greg Joseph was about 82% field goal kicker. Okay. Anders Carlson was right around 82%. Greg Joseph did most of his kicking indoors.
Yeah. And Carlson's got a bigger leg. I think.
I don't know. I thought he did going into the competition, Czabe, but I'm not
Joseph's
sure.
Got a cannon?
But he's got a good leg. There's no doubt about that. Okay. So I think some of it will come down to how these guys handle kickoffs as well. How versatile are they in that regard? So it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. But this is a big week coming up in light of the way things went in Denver. I think I know Matt LaFleur was somewhat disappointed based on what he said after the game, what he told us before the game, with the way things went with that practice in Denver. He didn't like the way his guys responded. And I think we've got the Ravens coming in here, and it'll be the Ravens ones at that practice on Thursday, the last open practice of the season for the Packers. And it's going to be interesting to see how they come out. The Packers come out and answer the Ravens, because the Ravens are into the AFC what the San Francisco 49ers are to the NFC.
They're nasty.
They're the physical bullies of the conference.
They are. They're a physical unit. So on the backup quarterback front, obviously everyone's freaking out over last night because Clifford and Pratt looked not ready to play. People say we need a better backup just in case. You can't find them. I mean, you can get guys, but the Jared Stidhams of the world and the Aiden O'Connells of the world, you go look at the depth charts and look at who's playing right now in the preseason. All these backups are not going to impress you as a team. I remember one NFL pundit said he asked why teams don't invest in their backup quarterback, and a coach told him, well, if we lose so-and-so, we're screwed, and we don't practice screwed. That was the coach's response to why don't you have a better backup? What's your feeling on the state of quarterbacking in the NFL when it comes to the second guy?
In the NFL, we have a hard time getting 32 starters, period. And maybe a third.
Good luck on 64 starters.
maybe a third of those starters would be better as backups. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So what you're saying about getting a good backup is really true, Czabe. And I think where you get that guy, what you're talking about, get the veteran guy, get the guy in here who's won games, who, if something happens to our starter, can get us 2 or 3 wins. That's usually done in March and April, not in July.
Ryan Tannehill is out there, though.
Great. Let him be out
agree.
there.
But it's the rumor that was out there yesterday.
I know.
I'm right there with you, Czabe.
He's not.
I agree. I saw the same thing. I was like, of course he's out there. There's a reason he's out there. There's a reason. Free couch.
It'll be interesting to see if Denver keeps all 3 of their quarterbacks. You know it? Because Sean likes all 3 of those guys. Now, Nix is going to start, and Nix looks like a terrific young quarterback. He really does. He's 25 years old, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. As a rookie, he's going to start for them. Stidham's pretty good as a backup. He's a good, solid guy. And then you've got Zach Wilson, and nobody trusts Zach Wilson, but he's got all the ability in the world. He was the second overall pick in the draft 3 years ago. So, it'll be interesting to see. If Denver lets one of those guys go, who knows?
All right, Wayne, glad you're back safely. And we got one more preseason worthless game to call, and then we're off and running for the regular season. We'll look forward to it. Thank you, my friend.
I appreciate your confidence, Czabe.